Welcome back to the next series of the Online Crypto Summit. We'll be featuring some of the trending and often revolutionary projects entering this blockchain scene. Today, I will be taking a closer look at the OS.University project, the world's first distributed university providing acquisition, verification, and validation of knowledge and skill through blockchain technology. Our guest is an award-winning academic researcher, former consultant for the Bulgarian Ministry of Economy, and currently a project lead at the OS.University. Please welcome Hristian Daskalov. So hello, Hristian. Thank you very much for being here and welcome to the Online Crypto Summit.
Thanks for inviting me, Victoria, and on behalf of the entire team, thanks for being able to be part of this great forum. It's such an exciting opportunity, and I'm very happy to be part of it.
Sure. So let's start with, can you explain what the OS.University is in 60 seconds or less to the audience?
I can do it in 10 seconds. It's a learning and development ledger on the Ethereum blockchain. The purpose of the ledger to provide an opportunity for every learner, whether a student or an employee, to have a digital credentials wallet. Credentials wallet that serves him or her in order to be able to be a owner of his or hers educational identity. So we're speaking about identity, but we're also speaking about engagement of academia and businesses. Think of us as Amazon for learning, but without the Amazon. So a distributed online marketplace for learning providers to be able to promote their content to learners and to businesses, and of course, based on this interaction, for learners to be able to create their own educational identity, which can be of use to them when they're applying for a job opportunity or going to do the next step in their career. We're connecting the three parties through our distributed platform. It is called OS.University. It is on the Ethereum blockchain. It will be running smart contracts, and we're very excited about its future.
Sounds great so far. So before we go deeper into the project, can you talk a little bit about your background and also about your core team, who is on the team, your advisory board, and so on?
It's great that you mention our team, because we tend to introduce ourselves as the first academia-driven ICO project in the world. This is because behind the project itself, there is a research center at the Technical University of Sofia. It's the Center for Open Science at the Faculty of Management, and the project itself originates from academia. Its purpose is to try to apply the open blockchain technologies in order to modernize academia operations, in order to open up the model of education in higher education, and link this model to further education. So try to erase the borders from university learning to corporate learning and create a seamless experience for learners. This is the task we are pursuing, and blockchain just happens to be the right technology to enable this transformation. From pure research perspective, we have done the calculations in a way, and we have proven this hypothesis, but now is the hardest thing. Now we are building the platform, and then we will need to, of course, introduce it to the world. And on board, we tend to call 7 billion learners, because everyone is a learner at the end, right? We are lifelong learners these days.
So maybe can you share a bit more about the rest of the team?
Yeah, of course, as I said, representatives of academia, but not only. Behind the project itself, there is a dedicated software team. We are working together with colleagues from a renowned, respected Bulgarian software development company. So I would say that our back-end operations are based in Bulgaria, while our front office, our consultants that are advising on how to approach the business opportunity behind the project are based in London. So in a way, we are a distributed team. We have public and private universities that are running the research operations. We have consultants based in London, and we have a development team based in Bulgaria. In the same time, we also work with ambassadors, brand ambassadors from all over the world. We have one of the first ambassadors to the OS.University in India. We have similar ambassadors in Brazil, in Southeast Asia, in United States, in different colleges. We have brand ambassadors recently joining from Africa. So really a global project with a global team, about 30 plus professionals, and about 10 dedicated technology resources are building this. I would not want to name anyone in particular because the others would get offended, right? But if you go on our website, you'll see former Minister of Education, you see current heads of universities, you see professors from academia, we will see renowned NGO leaders. We are aiming to democratize, to modernize the educational world, and this is cause behind which many people are willing to stand.
Very nice. So speaking of the market that you're going to cover, do you have any competitors within the blockchain space or outside? Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, the business side of the story is exciting as well, because while we are trying to solve a social problem, and this social problem is the fact that today's educational model is not sustainable. We have a lot of opportunities, including online, but they're not accessible by all. And when accessible, they're not being recognized, right? We have a lot of online platforms like Udemy or Udacity or edX or Coursera. People tend to think that actually they're competitors of ours, but that's not the case. These platforms, we are enriching their value proposition to learners. Because currently when you are completing an online course and you complete it actually, the awful truth is that no one really cares, because it's very hard to differentiate high quality from poor quality content. And even if you have completed a high quality course, it's very hard to have trust in the fact that the certificate you are going forward with is actually validated. It is a value. So the blockchain, what it does for education is that every issuer of educational certificate of any kind, whether diploma or qualification, can use our OS.University platform to validate the accomplishment from the learner and then to verify the document that the learner goes with in front of potential employee, as an example. So in that case, we're not competing with Coursera or with edX. They can be the ones that are using our technology in order to improve the value proposition for their learners. At the end, when we combine all the online education providers, we make their goods, services, products available through our educational marketplace. So in a certain way, we're not only improving their value, we are a very valuable market channel for these providers. Not only them, we can name also universities. We have among our partners formal accredited higher education institutions that will be leveraging both the blockchain validation and verification services and the marketplace itself. So we can go on and on. We're stepping on different markets. On one side, online learning, on the other side, classical university education, and on the third side, corporate learning and development. All of these industry pillars are getting on top of our marketplace, and all of them can benefit from the blockchain validated and verified certificates that we are providing as a service.
So do you have any competitors in the blockchain space then offering similar to your service?
Among the disruptors, maybe I would say, there are different projects that are pursuing the same cause to create an opportunity for learners to have their educational identity through the blockchain. I can name a few. Blockcerts, a project by MIT and Software Partners, they're working on this. Sonic Global Education is also working on leveraging the blockchain to achieve the same purpose and goal, but they are not providing it as a platform, they are providing it as a service. What we are building is a platform as a service. So it is an open platform, and in that sense, we don't have a competition because it's an open platform where you can go and leverage services free of charge. Of course, what we benefit from is the fact that in order to use the services, in order to validate and verify, you need to use the fuel. The fuel are our EDU tokens. So we provide a free of charge product, but in the same time we benefit from the fact that people are looking to acquire our tokens in order to exchange goods, services, informations between them, between a learner and academia, between a learner and business. So this is our business model, and in a certain way we are unique by leveraging this open platform as a service business model, while there are other competitors that are simply doing this as a paid or corporate or closed service, you name it.
Well, that leads to my next question. Can you elaborate a little bit on your token economy and what role the coin has within the network? Who will want to buy it?
Yeah, of course. By the way, today is the fourth day of the conference, and I know that the topic today is exactly around having sustainable, viable tokenomics models and generally business models at large. So we can speak not only about the token, we can speak about valuation. I would like this discussion to be of use to the viewers, to the audience of the forum, and have it more like an educational session rather than some form of a pitch session. Therefore, I would happily share my screen so I can show both the token model and how we got to have it as such. If you like, I can do so right away. Great.
Perfect.
So while sharing, I will, of course, have my gratitude spoken out loud to our member of the team, Professor Kevin Dowd. Professor Kevin Dowd is among the people who you can see on the slide. He is a professor, a long-time professor in Durham, in the United Kingdom, and he was the chief, I would say, visionary, the leading source or the leading mind behind our tokenomics model. He is an author of books in the field of free money, of private banking, of free currency, far before the blockchain and its first use case, the Bitcoin. So yeah, kudos to Professor Dowd and to the rest of the advisors we have on our board for coming with this model, this tokenomics model that you can see on the slide that I'm sharing right now. So what you can see on the slide is how.
Can you zoom a little bit?
Sure, I can zoom.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, what you can see on the slide is how the token is running throughout the platform. It is running in parallel to other cryptocurrencies. So we are not creating something to claim uniqueness and just ignore the fact that there are Bitcoin, there are Ethereum, there are other cryptocurrencies that people have in possession. We want to be able for our users to use these currencies on our platform. So on the left-hand side, you can see that there are two streams. The golden one is our EDU tokens. Whenever you buy educational programs or courses through the platform, you don't pay a subscription or you don't pay any other sort of fee. So the price for the services and the products you are using through the educational marketplace is lower than if you are going to pay with Bitcoin or if you're going to pay with Ethereum. This is the first incentivize for people to use the token. On the right-hand side, you see that we also are involving fiat currencies. So basically, learners will be able to pay for the services through the OS.University with British pound, with euro, and with US dollar. The same story goes here. If you use the token, it is with 0% commission fees, so it's cheaper and it's more, I would say, fair, because the provider of the educational content has as an additional, I would say, burden on his shoulders is, of course, at the end when he receives tokens. If he wants, he can turn these tokens to fiat through an exchange, but the learner is saving on costs, is saving on fees. And we have a few other incentivization models for the token itself. For example, if you are using fiat currency instead of our token, or if you're using Bitcoin or Ethereum, part of the commissions that goes into the platform are being burned. This can be seen on two places on the diagram. So 30% of this commission that is being, is being acquired for running the educational marketplace services through the platform is being burned. Therefore, we use this as a depreciation mechanism. And of course, we create an incentive for people to have a possession of EDU token, right? But I can go on and on. The main idea is that the EDU token is there. It is not superior to other crypto or fiat currencies. It is simply more democratic and fair too, because it removes every possible platform fee that you can imagine being on, for example, a marketplace like Amazon. Therefore, it reduces the price of goods and products and services of any kind that we're dealing with in the educational world, and it becomes the better solution for the learner to use. That's more or less our model. That's how we benefit from providing what is otherwise an open, non-for-profit platform as a service model to the learner that can leverage.
So basically, you're incentivizing learners to use your token to pay for services with no fees, and then 30% of that is burned, and 70% goes to what I saw in there, the open source university fund. Can you talk a little bit about that? What is it, and what happens after these tokens enter that fund?
Sure. Yeah. Well, great news actually as of today in that regard. We use the fund to distribute part of the tokens in different, we call them global partner networks. So, for example, today we completed some negotiations that we had with one of the biggest educational fairs around the world. So that basically what an educational fair does is it brings together learners with different universities, like hundreds of, if not thousands of the best and brightest universities around the world. And what we do for these learners is that through the fair, through the organization of the fair, we distribute tokens so that these tokens can be used by the learners in order to create their blockchain educational and career portfolios. And when they approach universities or future employees, they can stand in front of them with something that boosts their credibility, it boosts their employability, and of course, it enables faster and more meaningful connections, right? Because if you're a university, you want the right learners. If you're a graduate or MBA program, you want people that have the particular skills that are in regard to the program value that we are offering to those learners. So we enable better, smarter matching. But for this to happen, these people need to have portfolios, need to have their certificates, diplomas, validated and verified through the blockchain. And of course, what we do for them is to provide them free of charge part of these tokens that we have gathered through the fund and really democratize the access to our platform. At the end, strip the cost for the end learner and just in a quite fair way have our value generated by the companies, by the universities, by the other providers that are selling their content through our marketplace.
So basically, you're using the tokens in the fund to attract new people to the network and give them incentive to try it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Good. So can you talk a bit about your token sale? When is that going on, and how will that work? How will the tokens be distributed?
Well, there's something that is very interesting with us. We are not doing our crowd sale before our release, the alpha version release. That is expected for June, early June. So our token sale is scheduled for after the release. And the reason for that is quite simple. We are one of the few, I would not say because I have not done the research, but I would definitely, I have never heard about another crowd or crypto project, crowdfunding crypto project that has a partnership with the European Commission. So Our partnership with the European Commission is that they are supporting us in order to accelerate our project with our partners from UK, from London, and I'm doing this acceleration program with them in London. And what we are trying to do is, in return, to be as much as possible, tailored as a project, as a time frame even, tailored to the regulations that the European Commission has, because we are grateful for their support through this acceleration program that we are benefiting from. So, in order to be fully compliant with their regulations, we cannot have our crowd sale prior to our alpha version. If this is actually a good advice for every person that is interested in launching an ICO. If you launch a crowdfunding campaign with your tokens and you don't have a project basically operating on the blockchain where people can use as a utility your tokens, then unfortunately your tokens are not utility. They're a type of a security, right? So we're not having security tokens, we're having utility tokens. And to have pure, real utility tokens, you need a platform where people can have the utility, can have usage of your token. Therefore, we are having pre-sale right now, but our crowd sale will be upon the launch of our platform, so that our utility token is really a utility token, and people, learners, investors can, as of day one, use our services and our product. This is our goal, this is our agenda, and we are almost there. We are just a few months before the alpha release. And we are doing quite good with the private pre-sale, with private investors that we are approaching, or they are approaching us, and we are getting into engagements with each other.
So do you have a fixed supply of tokens that you will release during the sale, and how will that be distributed among the participants? Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can. Actually, this is a great topic, because we are moving towards the topic of the day itself, right? Also, we're speaking about valuations. So we have a particular amount of tokens that we are issuing. It's about 44 million EDU tokens. Of course, this does not speak that much for the viewer who has never heard about the open source university, its marketplace, and its credentials, validation, and verification services. So I want to elaborate a bit more on this. Behind these 44 million EDU tokens, there is a certain value in current in fiat currency. This amounts for about $18 million. Now, the number $18 million is not something that we put out of the top of our heads, right? We have calculated that the particular scale of the online education market as of 2023 will be around $240 billion. Calculating the growth of this market on which we're going to operate, the online education market, we have come to a particular set of products. When I speak of products, I speak of different online education networks, platforms, with which we can integrate our system, so that these platforms can sell their content through our marketplace, and can also use our platform in order to validate and verify the diplomas, the certificates they're issuing. So these platforms that we have identified, and we are in active process of negotiating integrations with, amount for around 0.01% of the overall total online education market. And if you calculate this 100th of a percentage out of this $240 billion, according to the growth of the market in 2023, so around 5 years, this is actually the market potential we're targeting. A market potential of $18 million. And for this market potential, you need the tokens to be in circulation. You need a minimum amount of tokens in the amount of $80 million. And of course, from there, according to the price of the Ether, and to generally the development of the crypto markets, this valuation can, of course, can scale. It can scale, it can multiply by 5, by 10, I cannot speculate by how much, but the idea is that you need to have the minimum set of tokens in circulation in order to cover the minimal predictions that we have in terms of price share that we will be having on the online education market. And this is how we get to our valuation. We, a very classical, very conservative way. We assess and analyze the market we are operating on. We find out what percentage or share of this market we can address. And then we created the circulation of our token in order to cover only this exact minimal portion. If this portion grows, of course, the demand will grow and the price will grow, but we're not interested in this. We're interested in covering the basics, because this is how I believe this should be done. Smarter calculations based on classical valuations and not some projections that are too speculative to be of value to anyone. Just stick to the fundamentals of the markets you're operating. This is maybe the main advice I would be giving through our use case to every other, I would say, potential investor or entrepreneur getting into the crypto space.
So if I'm getting this right, all the proceeds that you will be collecting, they will be used for the circulating supply within the network to cover that. And what about covering other expenses and building of the platform?
Good point. Well, when I'm saying that we are putting 44 million EDU tokens in circulation, of course, this is also shared on our website, or something like, I would say, a factuality. I'm not going deeper into this. Part of these tokens that have been generated and are being distributed, part of them are dedicated, they're not being sold through the crowd sale. Part of them are dedicated to the development of the platform. Part of them are dedicated to business development. Part of them are getting into circulation, but based on our tokenomics are going back into the project through this mechanism of burning some of the proceedings and using some of the other proceedings for our OS.University fund. It's quite a clever, quite a detailed model of operation of our EDU token. But I would say the foundations are these. You have a circulation of tokens that is sufficient to cover your share of the market you're operating on. And then, of course, each token can circulate numerous times, but this is up to the market to decide. So we cannot speculate whether a user will use the tokens for services on our platform, or will decide to hodl, as they say, or to use like some sort of an investment vehicle on his own. What we're doing is to create supply that is sufficient to cover our use case and our industry share that we are addressing. Nothing more, nothing more, nothing less. That's the main, I would say, outcome of how we structured our tokenomics.
So the tokens will be traded on an exchange as well, in addition to circulating within the network. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. This is what I'm explaining, that our main idea is to create a service that is of use in the educational world. But of course, if you want to keep the token as any other token or coin, you can. And if you want to trade it, you can. Why? Very simple. It's not like we're organizing a security or something, but imagine that you are a university and you sell your summer master schools, right? You're selling them internationally. This is a huge income pillar for classical universities. They're providing affordable opportunities for their learners, or some of them, right? But they're also providing exclusive opportunities in terms of summer or winter schools for international students, and they're trying to make income, to make revenue out of these programs. So if you are selling this offering through our marketplace, you will be interested at the end to have, of course, you will receive EDU tokens, because learners will be paying with EDU tokens if they want to have lower price of your offering. But at the end of the day, you may want to turn these tokens into fiat currency. Therefore, we definitely are going on exchanges. I can name, for example, Nebula. It is like an exchange that we just closed the deal today. It will be like business as usual in that regard. We will be fully leveraging all the existing decentralized exchange opportunities, centralized exchange opportunities that are out there in order to enable more opportunities for our users to do whatever they would like to do with our token. We incentivize them to use it on our platform, but it's actually their choice and their call to decide.
So will you have any holding periods for the early investors and for the owners as well? How will that work?
Yes, for the owners, for the management of the project, as I said, we are a consortium of universities, of companies, the property, intellectual properties, based on in a software company in Bulgaria, but we have partners from the UK. So all the partners who are going into the project and trying to create this global educational network and cryptocurrency around this network in the form of the EU token, they are all into the project with the understanding that the part of the token supply and the minimal amount that is remaining in their possession, in the possession of the management team itself, it is of course locked down for 12 to 18 months according to the different agreements that we have with our partners, because we want to create something that is sustainable in the long run. We are not incentivizing people to, like organizations or universities or companies, to join us in order to make profit out of it, fast money, right? And for this kind of security, I would say, or creating additional trust in our investors, or generally the user who would like to use our services, we have all the necessary arrangements. For the user, as long as we are live after our pre-sale with our alpha version, right? Remember, we need the platform in order to have a truly utility token. We are enabling the ones that possess our token to trade, exchange, or use on the platform itself. But by the way, having said that, I would maybe need to say that we are already 3 years in research, validation, and development. So far, many people are joining like partners. As I said today, we were joined by such a global educational fair that is working with top business schools from around the world in 60 locations. But none of our partners have ever told or discussed with us, when can I go to an exchange and try to monetize my share of the tokens, despite that we're speaking about less than 1 or 2% of the general supply that we are putting as part of these 44 million EU tokens. So this has never been a discussion, and it's quite reasonable why, right?
Yep. Well, let's talk a little bit more about your current state of development. You mentioned a few things already, but maybe elaborate on that, and also tell us what are your biggest challenges that you're facing at the moment.
Well, maybe this would be also a good opportunity to share the screen again and show maybe some of the slides that we have on the subject, because it's quite exciting. I would say where we are currently, development-wise, of course. So this is quite actually saturated slide, but still I think it's it is good in terms of visibility, and viewers, the audience of the forum can just put on pause and have more insights on this particular slide. But where we are currently in terms of development, we are almost at the end, or I would say at the second quarter of half one 2018. So we are from early prototyping and alpha development, which the past few quarters were primarily addressing, slowly moving into pilot implementations and of course market penetration. So as of half 2 2018, with our alpha version live, we are starting to implement our smart contracts that will be running on the distributed educational marketplace with partners that are listed over here. So, for example, we have in our team one not one, the oldest and the biggest end-to-end HR company in Bulgaria, Job Tiger. They would be using our platform to source the right candidates for the right companies. Of course, upon those candidates creating their educational portfolios or credentials wallets, we tend to call them. We also have the National Students' Union. It's an organization, a Brno organization representing more than 200,000 students in Bulgaria. These learners would all be using the platform in order to find additional learning opportunities beyond their bachelor or master studies. We have universities such as the University of Insurance and Finance. We have media groups. We have private companies that will also be onboarding in the next quarters. So I guess we are at this stage of pilot implementations after the release of the alpha version that is happening in June. And around the end of 2018, we'll start working on the beta version. If you remember this slide where I showed the fact that we will also be accepting fiat currencies, this will be happening in the beta version of the OS.University platform. So more or less, this is our plan for now, for the moment. And yeah, we'll be happy to speak about it more, or if someone is interested to join these early adopters, yeah, just drop us a note on social media or on our emails, and we'll be happy to discuss integration opportunities.
Great. Well, as we're coming to a close, Hristian, would you like to share anything else with the community? Maybe a few words to the people who are new to the scene, and how should they approach projects like yours and projects at all in the space?
Well, I would have two, I would say, outcomes of our discussion. First, we have the purely educational side and career development side of the story, because this is the main field where we are operating in, and this is the main cause we are pursuing. So we foresee a future in which every learner will be the owner of his credentials. No longer he would need to go back to third parties in order to validate or verify his accomplishments. As soon as they're achieved, the information about these will be stored into his credentials wallet and instantly be accredited with the trust that is needed in order to go on the job marketplace, in order to grow and advance in one's career. So we foresee this future, and the same way you have a passport as a citizen of a particular country today, you will have an educational and you will have a career development passport that is leveraging the blockchain technology in order to create trust in the people, in order to create your educational identity that is following you wherever you go and whatever you do in terms of learning and development. This is what we are foreseeing as a future. I'm outlining it quite clearly because I definitely want people to know where the system is headed. It is not like our idea, it is something that we have explored, we have researched, and we have got to the conclusion that this is the direction, the path forward, and we're simply creating a technology solution to enable this transformation. So we're simply creating a platform which can enable this educational identity of the future. This is what is going on in education. From blockchain, or I would say a cryptocurrency perspective, the main outcome of our discussion today, maybe for me personally, is the fact that I am a strong believer in utility tokens. I'm a strong believer, of course, security or payment tokens, they have their share, they have their meaningful use cases, but we are creating a pure utility token. And I believe in these tokens because they enable new business models as our decentralized or distributed Amazon for learning that we want to create in order to have people finding, getting their hands on content on lower prices than on prices they would be getting this content for if they're paying in fiat currency. So we believe in this distributed future. We believe that many marketplaces will be leveraging the distributed marketplace approach, will be leveraging the blockchain, therefore they will have utility tokens that people will be able to buy and use on the platforms. And I would advise anyone to explore these opportunities. But remember that if a utility token does not have a platform where this can be used, then it's not a utility token, it's a security token. And people need to invest smartly, quite wise, in order to be fully compliant with the existing regulations. Regulations are not a threat, they're opportunity. We did not have the time to speak about regulations that are affecting our industry, for example, GDPR, the new regulation of the European Union about data privacy and security. But actually they made, for example, this new regulation made our platform smarter, because we were thinking how we can go along with this regulation, and actually this made us think harder and improve our value proposition. And we added to our stack IPFS, which is the interplanetary file system, one great distributed solution for storing files in a private, personal manner without the need for a data manager to process your personal information. So regulations are good. They put more clarity in the system, they put more trust in the system. This does not mean that they contradict with the distributed nature of the future marketplace models and business models at large. And yeah, just stick to the basics, complying with the needs of the industry, complying with regulators, trying to work with these regulators as we work with the European Commission to create smarter solutions. And I think things will go smoothly for the crypto economy in the future if these are being followed.
Okay, well, one last thing that comes to my mind before we close is how is the open source, how will be the open source university involved, let's say in with unprivileged countries with lack of education and lack of resources? Is this a platform that could benefit this part of the world? And
yeah. Well, this is a great, I would say, connection that you do with yesterday's presentations, because the topic was blockchain for social good. Great topic. I really congratulate you about putting a spotlight on this particular aspect. So, as I said numerous times, we are creating a distributed Amazon for learning. But the great thing when you create a distributed marketplace is that you can also buy, so you can enable discovery, and you can enable transactions that are related to products which are offered free of charge. So wherever there are open opportunities, open learning, open science, we are integrating these providers into our marketplace so that learners can organize their learning curricula, can organize their learning pathways with either paid or free of charge educational offerings. And at the end of the day, actually, you can try to do it today. You know, there are many platforms that are offering learning free of charge. But the problem is that nobody recognizes these achievements. And here where blockchain kicks in, because it provides the opportunity to validate this open free of charge learning and to verify your accomplishment upon registering your certificate or diploma on the blockchain by basically hashing this information about your achievement. We are enabling this open learning model to flourish, something that was missing, something that was lacking. The opportunities, open learning opportunities were dispersed. They were hard to make sense of. They were hard to prove, to create trust in. And now with our marketplace, it will be able to easier find them and organize them and basically complete and register your completion and accomplishment at the end of the process. Therefore, we believe that through this value proposition, we are opening the educational world for hundreds of millions of learners that are currently being neglected or absolutely excluded from the picture. We're speaking about Sub-Saharan Africa, we're speaking about South America, we're speaking about India, where enrollment in higher education is something like 15% at most. So great markets will be able to benefit from our offering in order to democratize access and of course democratize access to education and also access to career development by bridging the gap between the learner, his verified accomplishments, and the businesses who are seeking for the right candidates, right? This is what we do, and we're very, very proud, but also excited about the future, and we're looking to to you as a partner to send out the message, to spread out the word, but of course to any other partner that is in the, I would say, supply chain of education or HR services to go on board on this open project and work together to fulfill our mission.
Great, thank you very much for this conversation, Hristian. I'm sure it was very useful and very interesting for everybody listening to learn more about what you do and how you're disrupting education. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great day ahead, and wish all the best to the audience of the conference.